Well, hello everyone. My name is Eric. I run the Sustainable Suite Script community for NetSuite developers over at Stoic Software. And I'm here today with Salto's Director of Customer Engineering, Dan Avigdor. Dan, how's it
Hi,
going?
nice to meet you.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for joining us. SuiteWorld 2024 just wrapped up last week. I was unfortunately not able to attend, but Dan, you were there.
Yeah,
Uh, you were hanging out at the booth, Salto's booth, and then you also led a session. So that's what we want to go through today. Just talk about takeaways, themes, that sort of thing that you saw from the conference, and get some input from the audience as well on what they saw if they were able to attend. But I have a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. So we have scheduled a full hour for this, but most of that is reserved for you, the audience. If you have questions, you have comments, for you to submit, and we'll talk about that stuff. So the chat is open, the Q&A is open, and I will be watching that throughout the conversation. So if you have questions for us, comments for us, observations that you have from SuiteWorld, go ahead and drop that in the chat or the Q&A. And the session is being recorded and it will be distributed out via email to everybody who was here. And I believe it will also be posted to the Salto's YouTube channel. So lots of ways to get this after the fact as well. And I forgot to share my screen. Second. I'm supposed to have this up. All right. So I do want to start quickly just by highlighting Salto and the mission of their platform. So Salto is not a consulting company looking to sell you any services or anything like that. They are a software company that has built a powerful DevOps platforms for business application teams to plan, review, deploy, and monitor changes to their business platforms. There's also supports platforms like NetSuite, Salesforce, Zendesk, Jira, a whole bunch of others. And you can try it out yourself. You can check out salto.io and sign up for a free 30-day trial and also schedule a free personalized demo. And with that, everything, let's get into the conversation. So Dan, you were at SuiteWorld on behalf of Salto with a bunch of your team, again hanging out at the booth, and then you led a session to what looked to me in the pictures like a packed room. So can you tell me a little bit about that session, what it was, and then what sort of takeaways you have from that?
yeah. So first of all, before we get to the session, maybe first of all, I'll
Yeah.
say thank you for having me, and then I'll share a little bit of background about how I got to Sweet World. So
Yeah.
I've been with Salto for the last kind of 3 years. This is my first Sweet World, although I've been working with NetSuite in Salto from the early days, basically from one of the first deployments ever done on NetSuite using Salto. I was
Nice.
there. Um, and it was super exciting, to get there, feet on the ground, and see the actual community and people and atmosphere in Vegas. Um, so we always have a booth, at least in the last 3 years, in Sweet World. But some of the attendees from Salto that were there with me shared that this is probably the biggest one they've seen thus far. So official numbers talk about somewhere between 7 and 10,000 people in Sweet World this year, which is pretty
Wow.
amazing.
Yeah.
Um, the it was you mentioned packed, so although my session was great and a lot of people attended, compared to the grand scheme of things, there were so many people there. It seemed for a minute like Oracle took over Las Vegas for a minute, or for a few
Yeah.
days actually. Um, Everywhere you went, everybody was like, with Oracle swag and talking about, finance and NetSuite. And it was the conversation of the day, no matter where you visited. Specifically, our booth was kind of well placed. Good job, marketing team. And it was yeah, kind of in front of interesting companies that were there, without throwing too many names. And a lot of people came in. We had some nice swag. We had, some things to hand out as usual, right?
Mandatory,
Exactly.
mandatory if you have a booth.
Exactly. You gotta give back to the community, right? Um, so a little bit of swag, some stickers, and some plushies, and some other stuff, and great conversations. I mean, it was amazing to talk to people that um, it was very natural, right? I think that
Yeah.
was for me uh, a big difference. A lot of time, I've been to a couple of conferences, smaller ones in Europe, representing Salto, talking about NetSuite European Days, for those of you that know, in Germany, in Nuremberg. So I was there also last 3 years. And I always found it a little bit difficult to explain, what we do or what is Salto. And maybe I came across some challenges with like saying, hey, how do you do change management? Then I had to explain the concept of change management and configuration you know, and things kind of were sometimes a little bit tricky. And in SuiteWorld, that was very different, right? The conversations were much more easygoing. People immediately understood like what Salto is about. Maybe they've already heard about it, maybe they haven't, but they already understand or have in their mind the concept of change management. Why is that important? Um, and I think that was kind of an eye opener, or really like something nice, something that's telling me, okay, the market is maturing, adapting, getting better at things that are maybe norm in other business applications. And we can always talk about, I don't know, maybe some of the people here do a little bit of Salesforce as well. Um, so that's a well-educated market that knows, the ins and outs of change management. And NetSuite was a little bit behind, but in this suite world, I kind of got a different take on that. So I'd say that was really interesting.
Yeah, I think I see very similar things just out in the community, in the Slack communities and places like that, in the Reddit subreddits and things like that. More questions about that sort of thing, change management, DevOps, testing, like all of those more operational aspects of managing a business platform. I see a lot more questions and content about that stuff. So that's really encouraging.
Yeah.
I think the
Uh,
last time I was at Sweet World was like 2018, and there were maybe 5,000 people. I don't think there were even that many. Maybe like two and two and a half or something like that. So, and I think if you had brought the same conversation then, you'd get blank stares most of the time. So it's really encouraging to see that growth.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it was like, um, a lot of times I would ask people like, how many sandbox environments do you have, right? And a lot of companies, sandboxes in NetSuite, first of all, are not cheap, as we all know. And a lot of companies, acquire more than a couple. Sometimes they have three, four, five, and you're like, okay, but how do you actually, deploy changes? And then suddenly realize that, these people sometimes are spending hours, just moving things from one environment to another.
Yeah.
But the fact that they already see that as a problem, I think that's the main piece here, right? So when we were conversing on the floor, it was very easy to have a conversation about it, maybe show a quick demo, and everything clicked immediately, and people were like super excited because they're like, okay, you can help me with my problem. I do want to use these environments as part of a change management flow. I do want to do some automated testing. I do want to introduce some sort of a sequence of how my metadata travels from sandbox all the way to production with approvals and so on. I just don't have the ability or the tools, and this gives me exactly what I need to do that. So that was a lot of the conversations that we had. Um, I also felt like maybe a lot of times in conferences, some of the customers that I used to talk to were like, we're still implementing NetSuite. We're in the process of implementing NetSuite, or we're using a partner. And not that partners are, a negative. They're great. Some of them do an amazing job, things that we can can't even dream about. But a lot of but it does have a kind of a negative and a positive. And I'd say the negative is sometimes the customers kind of lose interaction with the technology side of things. They maybe don't know exactly what's happening in their NetSuite environment or how exactly things got implemented. And that can also cause some problems later down the road. If you decide to switch a partner, or maybe somebody left and somebody new came in, it could cause some problems.
Yeah.
So you can see that as also a point of conversation. Kind of how do we know what's happening in our NetSuite environment? Yeah, that was
Yeah.
also something that came up.
Take some of that ownership back.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah.
How about the what if there's more questions or themes that came out of the booth talk or your session? I kind of want to transition us to talking about the session
Yeah,
as
so
well.
yeah, so
Um,
let's talk a little bit about the session.
sure.
Um, so the
How
session
was it?
was yeah, it was first of all, it was great. I wasn't expecting much. I've done these sessions before, and not always a lot of people turn up, and that's fine because sometimes, they have other plans or maybe something else is happening at the same time. And this was just around lunch. So I was like cautious. I was like, okay, maybe, I don't know, 50, 100 people would turn up. And then, I get to the stage. First of all, I didn't understand that this was kind of the main stage. It wasn't like a side
Oh,
stage or anything
wow.
like that. Yeah. It was the main stage on the floor. So I go up and I'm like, okay, I'm humbled. Thank you. I take the mic, I go on stage, I start talking, and I see that, there's like at least 300, 400 people there. Um,
Wow.
everybody's, yeah, it was amazing. Um, Audio quality was not the best, um, but but we got through it.
Wow.
Um,
That
and
drive me
yeah,
nuts.
yeah, it could happen, but you gotta keep rolling. So we did our best, and I talked about how to clean up your NetSuite environment, right? The fact that sometimes and again, without going into the nitty-gritty, just kind of high level, if you have a bunch of saved searches and maybe, some of them are public or private, but, not nobody's really using them and you want to kind of clean up your NetSuite instance, how can you
Yeah.
use Salto to do that? And I know a lot of companies struggle with that. Suddenly you have thousands and thousands of saved searches. Everybody opens a new one. Nobody even thinks about if it's private or public. Who cares? And then you're searching for a string and you find like five saved searches with the exact same name. The only difference is like uppercase, lowercase, underscore, and you're not even
Someone's
sure which one.
initials.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know which one is what.
Mm-mm.
So a good way to clean those up would be using Salto with impact analysis, with kind of searching using a regular expression, and also kind of applying some sort of a naming scheme. Um, so, telling everyone in the company, from this point onward, if you're creating a saved search and you don't want to get it removed, make sure you have this structure. And then afterwards, you can always go into Salto, run a query and find all the ones that do not match that structure and easily understand the dependencies. And if you want to delete them. So that was kind of the first piece of the demo, and people were super stoked. It works really great. So obviously, I wasn't surprised that people, were impressed because I know what Salto can do. So
For sure.
and so that was the first one. And then the second piece was scripts, Sweet scripts, JavaScript, whatever you have in your file cabinet, which are kind of yeah, disconnected, right? They don't have anything connected to them. It's just a JS file or something that's in your file cabinet, not connected to anything, and there's no reason of keeping it there. There's a lot of reasons why you don't want to mess in your file cabinet. One of them being, performance and not being able to find the things that you actually need, and just
Yeah.
keeping things tidy and organized. There's a bunch of, talking points on that topic, but I'll just say that like with Salto, again, with impact analysis, you can easily kind of get to a script, understand the dependencies, and then decide if you want to get rid of it or not. If it has zero dependencies, odds are you can just remove it. Um, so that was another one. And again, audience was, and again, if anybody from that conversation is here by any chance, you're also welcome to chime in and let us know if there was anything else that I mentioned or if I'm getting this wrong by any way, shape, or form. I'd love to know.
You didn't
Um,
get to ask your question. Now's a great time to ask your question.
yeah, we are. Yeah, this is a very welcoming and open forum today. So feel free. Um, but that talking point was also a good one, and again, from my impression, audience was impressed and liked it. And then we had a little bit of a Q&A. It's kind of the usual Q&A. It's things that I get all the time when I talk to customers or prospects and demos around kind of what are the metadata types that Salto supports, um, which is something that, honestly speaking, we weren't always the best at. We started with, like, I'd say around 75 to 80% coverage.
Mhm.
And I'm happy to say that today we stand at around 95%. I don't say 100% because there are some things that are locked that we always can't get to. So it's never 100%, but we are very close, and we've added support for analytics and reporting and data sets and a lot of other custom records. These things didn't always exist in Salto, so these were improvements. And it always comes up as a question because there's always this person who wants to know, hey, can I do this for a workflow? Can I search through my file cabinet? Can I see my uh, PDF templates? I don't know. It's so those
Right.
questions always pop up. So that was one that I remember, off the back of my head. Um, Honestly, I don't really remember other questions from the stage.
Mhm.
As of now, yeah, I don't have anything immediate. Maybe I'll remember in a minute or so, but um, yeah, go ahead.
It it sounds to me like it fits nicely with the topic that is cleaning up an account. It fits nicely with that sort of retaking ownership over your account, right? Maybe your consulting partner leaves or you switch or something like that, or you just want to bring a team in-house. You're hiring some new people, you want them to get up to speed quickly. You need them to understand the picture of the environment of what's in my account, and if I touch that file over there, what does that affect down that way? And Salto helps you do that. It helps you build that sort of visualization of your account, almost get that understanding, that contextual understanding of this piece is connected to that piece. uh, Here's all those pieces that partner A added because they put their company initials in the IDs, and I can go find all those company initials. So it's not surprising to me that it was a popular session, especially if you're out on the main stage. That
Yeah,
helps too, right?
for sure.
um, so how about the rest of the sort of conference? What were your maybe impressions or takeaways? Were there themes or topics that you saw frequently or repeated? What
Yeah.
was that like?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So first of all, I'd say a little bit of kudos to the organization, like Oracle setting everything up, the atmosphere, the location, the even the small bag that we got when we just got there when we kind of signed up. Everything was well executed. Food was nice. Everything was really well done. Food is important. People like food. And there was also this company, I'm not sure what they do, but they had this amazing coffee cart in their booth, which was amazing. So they always had a queue and everybody was like just waiting for it.
Coffee
Which
equally important.
yeah, exactly. So that was also nice. Um, yeah, one of the main topics, obviously, that kept coming up was AI, right? Everybody wanted
Sure.
to talk about AI. Everybody was like, "Hey, what's your AI take? Can you do AI? How does Salto, uh, how does Salto demonstrate AI? Even, by the way, there were a lot of Salto existing customers that were in SuiteWorld. And there
Sure.
was one of them actually that kind of came to the booth and we started talking and he mentioned AI from another booth that he visited. And I was like, do you know that we also do AI? And he was like, really? And I was like, yeah, of course. And then I showed him and he was blown away, right? He was like, I can't believe Salto can do this. This is amazing. I wish I knew this before. So this was like a really hot topic from that point onwards. That was kind of, for me, that was kind of a clicking moment where I realized that, what we have from an AI perspective is very relevant for the people in this room right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was the hot topic for me, I'd say.
Great. Do you want to show that
Yeah, of course,
in
I'd be
Salto?
happy to. Yeah, so there's a little bit of a demo here that we want to show you about our new well, it's not that new, but maybe you haven't seen it before. It's a feature called Explain. So we'll show it in a second. So let me just share. If you can confirm that you can see everything.
I see Knuckles.
All right, cool. So for those of you that haven't seen our UI before, this is Salto. This is our SaaS application. On the left-hand side, you can see the different environments. And I'm going to go into my NetSuite environment. So I'm going to filter those. And I'm going to go into production. By the way, I can also kind of close this just to clean up some real estate. And yeah, that's a cool party trick. Um, so there's the Explore tab, which is where you would do impact analysis, and that's what basically I showed on stage. But what I want to show now is a little bit of a different angle when it comes to AI. So we have our NetSuite adapter, and beneath it, we have all of our categories. So we have custom records, file cabinet, records, settings, and types. Um, Most of the time we'll probably spend in records where we have all the folders kind of representing the different metadata types. And within each of these folders, we will find the actual instances of that type. So in our example, we're just going to show a workflow. So I'm going to go into my workflow folder, and here you can see a bunch of workflows that I just have set up in my account. And the one that we're going to click on, just kind of fairly randomly, is a sales order basic approval. And if I click on it, there's the usual stuff. You can see kind of the values and the init conditions and the states and everything is actually here. But it's not always super convenient to try and read a textual file representing a workflow. You all know that workflows can be complex, have a lot of moving pieces. Um, and it's not always that easy. There's always the description, which is great, but it's not always enough. And sometimes people don't do a good enough of a job
Yeah, you're
documenting the
totally
description.
reliant on whoever made the workflow to fill that out, thoroughly and keep it up to date. Uh, and there's no guarantee that that's happening, right?
Exactly, exactly. So if you're using Sarto, you can obviously take a look the old-fashioned way and just look at things the way it is right now. But there's also another option, which is using explain feature. Before I click on it, I'll just kind of explain the logic of how it works. So basically, we take the XMLs and we turn them into our format, which is called NACL. And once we have that NACL, we can basically, because NACL is a declarative language, we can just feed it to any LLM and kind of ask what that thing is doing. And that LLM will just do it for us, right? So Salto has OpenAI as a sub-processor baked into our product. And basically, we're kind of manipulating ChatGPT with a bunch of cool code and stuff that we've added on top. And we are able to take NACL files, feed them to AI, and kind of give you the output. So in this example, I'm going to click on explain, and then Salto is going to do that. It's going to explain what this workflow is actually doing. And everything is happening live as we go. So let's just do that. Let's just click on it. And once I do that, it's kind of doing it behind the scenes as we're talking. By the way, this is production. It's not pre-recorded. We don't do magic tricks, right? This is the real deal. Um, so yeah, so now it's explaining, so you can read for yourself, but it's kind of giving you a preview. This NetSuite workflow named SRD, sales order basic approval, automates the approval process for sales order, and then it tells you the initiation, if it's pending approval, if it's approved, if it's rejected, and if it gets canceled. And it also specifies the roles. So the approver created by, so you kind of get a really good high level 20,000 feet explanation. Now, this can be great for several reasons. I'm sure Eric can kind of explain why this could help.
Waiting to like launch into it. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah, I think this is one of my like favorite, I don't know, features.
Mhm.
I think workflows, can we view this workflow in NetSuite?
Yeah, for sure.
Uh,
I
I
can
think
open.
saved searches and workflows are great examples of this feature because they can be really difficult to parse. Like if you just look at a workflow, in the NetSuite UI, all you see are some blocks and some lines connecting the blocks. Then you have to click on a block to see what the actions are in that state. Or you have to click on the line to see just the conditions for that line. And you have to slowly, and they're all they all open different pop-ups. So it, it spreads everything out. And so trying to build an understanding, if we're talking about sort of restoring ownership or cleaning up an account, you're looking at this workflow trying to understand what does it do and can I remove it or do I need to change it or something like that. Trying to build that understanding from this screen is tedious and difficult, to put it kindly, right? You have to click through so many different dialogues in so many different spots to try and put together like how does this workflow actually work? But being able to click one button and have Salto just explain to you, here is yeah, like you said, the 20,000 foot view. Just give you this couple paragraphs, 200 words here that just describes what it's doing. Even from that, you can probably decide, uh, do I need to assess this further? Can I remove it? Should we leave it? Like just from this one click of a button, you can probably make that quick decision. And if you decide you need to assess it further, yeah, go into NetSuite, start digging around. Great, but getting this high level picture from one click is amazing. Uh,
Yeah,
so I love it.
cool. Yeah, thank you for that. I think maybe two small points to mention.
Yeah,
Before we kind of move on is the fact that first of all, you can do this to any metadata type, right? This is not unique to a workflow or a safe search, which are probably the most common ones, but you can do this on everything. It could be a role, it could be an entity custom field, it could be anything, a custom record instance. Um,
PDF template.
yeah, you name it. Everything is supported. So in every element in Salto, you have the button, just click on it. Now, I'm not gonna claim that the accuracy is the same across the board. It's kind of a hit and miss. So in specific elements, maybe we're doing better because we had a lot of examples and we learned from those. And in certain areas, maybe it's not as accurate, but for that, we've added the thumbs up, thumbs down. So we are looking for feedback. So when you click on explain, if you don't get the result that you were expecting, or you're reading the paragraph and you're like, what is this? I don't have any idea what you guys want. Give
Mm-hmm.
us the thumbs down, tell us why, and we will work on that, right? That gets immediately injected into our engineering. It's not even going to support. It's directly into our engineering team, and they will look at it, and work in order to make it better for your next experience, which is part of kind of the bread and butter inside that we try to make everything as good as possible, but we constantly kind of strive to improve. So um, if you're not getting the results, let us know. And if it was great, also give us a thumbs up. It's always nice to know that you're in the right direction. Um, yeah.
Right. I've got a
Uh,
few questions here that I can interject with,
okay.
if it's
Is
a
there
good
anything
time.
else you want to see though on the NetSuite side of things? I just open it up. This is the workflow, or are we good?
No, I just wanted to use this screen to illustrate if you try to start clicking through the transitions or the states, like how deep you have to click, and
Yeah.
it's just not a friendly UI for building an understanding, like a holistic understanding of what this workflow is doing, or even then like what's this workflow connected to, right? What are the dependencies? Are there saved searches? It depends on things like that. It's really hard to build that from this screen alone. So I just
Got
wanted
it.
to use this to illustrate that.
Got it. Cool. Let me
The
unshare
definition
real
of tedium. Yes, Marshall.
quick.
Um, yeah, I have a question from Marshall actually regarding the explain feature. Can you interact with explain the same way you can with ChatGPT? Can you converse with it?
So great question. So as of now, the simple answer is no. It's more of kind of a baked in into our product. But I will tell you that we do have some future planning on kind of expanding the reach when it comes to AI and Salto. So we are working on some really cool stuff. And these are things that I've already talked about publicly, so I don't mind repeating them, which is maybe kind of our future vision is maybe getting one day to a point where, if you want to deploy something from one environment to another, you don't even have to go through UI. You just talk to a machine, just like you would talk to ChatGPT, and you would just say, hey, I got this saved search. Can you fetch? Can you deploy it to production and ask for approval from that person and hit enter and it will do the rest. And I know it sounds like magic, but um, even asking a machine to write a proper email used to sound like magic, and today it seems like norm to everyone. So you never know, how things progress, and I think it will happen eventually. I think that's the path forward. As of now, kind of an inside trick for those of you that have joined. You can take NACL files and just feed them to any LLM, and it will understand because it's a declarative language. And that's the power of NACL, right? The fact that it's a superior language to XML that you can just use and that machines can understand, humans can understand. Um, so yeah,
I don't think we actually showed it, but NACL is Salto's, text representation of custom objects. NetSuite,
yeah,
Salesforce, transforms them all down into these NACL files. Looks a lot like JSON if you're a developer, and just gives you this textual representation that yeah, machines and people can super easily understand. So, a couple more questions here that will looks like take us through like the gamut of Salto's features. So there's anything else you want to say about explain, you might want to do that because I might be taking us off of that.
no, I'm good. I think we kind of conveyed the message, and yeah, let's open up for questions.
Yeah, so this one's from John. Can I search where a field is used in specific reports? So can I see, you know, have a field I'm looking at, can I see which reports it's used in, or maybe vice versa?
Yeah. So the simple answer is absolutely. So there's a couple of ways in which you can do that. The first one is using our content search. Basically, we have the ability to look within those NACL files. So if you were to type the name of the field in the content tab, you will see all the reports that contain that specific field name. Ideally, you can use label, you can use script ID, you can use um, whatever you want, basically, which represents the field, but ideally script ID would be the best for accuracy purposes. And then that's just one option. The other option is just finding the field under the Explore tab in the element view, and then looking at the different references that it has. So under used by, you will see all the reports that are using that specific field.
Exactly. Yeah. So if you look at any, and I don't know, we don't have a canned example ready to go for this, but if you pull up any custom field or any object really in the Salto UI, down at the bottom, it will show you all the things that that object depends on or uses, and then all the other objects that use it. So you can sort of understand that dependency mapping in both directions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Um, all right. In a similar vein from Zachary. Any advice on cleaning up auto-generated field IDs? Um, So Salto can provide the visibility. Would we need to address them one by one, changing their IDs, then changing dependencies, et cetera, et cetera?
So that's a great question. When you say IDs, you mean the script IDs, right?
Yeah, so my interpretation of this would be that if you just make a new field and don't give it your own ID, NetSuite just auto generates one by typing
Right,
a number onto the end.
right. So that's a great question. So back in the day, that was kind of something we were missing, if we're very honest about it. And looking through the Explore tab, you would only see the script IDs. But later down the road, we developed this feature called Alias, where we take the label or the name and we use that to identify the different elements in Salto, even though the actual Salto element ID is using the script ID, right? So even if the script ID makes no sense and you have no idea what it is and it's auto-generated, you can still search based on the label and you will find exactly what you were looking for. And when you do that cleanup, you can use that same principle. So if the label has the um, um, kind of the schema or the structure that you agreed upon within your company or organization, and you're trying to find everything that doesn't match that scheme, you will still be able to find um, those instances.
Yeah. And you could search. So in the case of, say NetSuite's auto-generated things, right? It's I don't know, custom script 123, custom search 456. You can search by regular expression in the Salto UI, and so it's really easy to pattern match on those auto-generated um, IDs, and you can really easily identify where those are, and then make that decision of, do I need to change this? Is it okay? And go from there. I don't think there's any sort of automated, like Salto's not going to fix them for you because it doesn't know what the correct IDs would be. You're still going to have to make those changes yourself.
Yeah.
Uh, but Salto helps with the identification of all
Yeah, and
those.
I would also say that if for whatever reason you do decide to do kind of a massive cleanup where you go and kind of change the script IDs to match between, different fields or saved searches or whatever, a metadata type, it does require some action on the Salto side. So you'd have to run a fetch with what's known as regenerate IDs, where we kind of rebase the structure of the IDs within our platform. So it's just a disclaimer. It's a little bit more advanced, but I'm putting it out there for those of you that, already use Salto.
Right. More questions. This one from Safi. Does Salto support sending critical logs to chat engines like Discord or Slack?
Yeah, so great question. We don't really send logs, but we do have a monitoring feature where you can kind of decide what you want to track. So if you want to look at specific areas within your system and you want to get notified if those are modified, deleted, added, you can easily do that. And the endpoints that we offer are either Slack or email. So you can integrate with your Slack organization and then create maybe a dedicated Slack channel and kind of feed the monitoring directly into that channel.
Classic. We've done a few like live demonstrations of this, and then I've made some videos on behalf of Salto, which you can find on their YouTube channel, of this feature of doing exactly this. You set up this monitor of, I want to, the classic example I always use is, I want to know when any saved search that is used by one of my JavaScript files changes. If so, that saved search changes, I want to know about it as the developer so that I can go assess whether that change will break my script. Did they remove a column I need? Did they change the filters that will uh, adjust the behavior of the script? I want to know that ahead of time, and Salto can tell me that right as that search changes. As soon as Salto does its next fetch, it can send a monitor message to Slack channel or to an email group, or lots of ways to do that notification. Right, let's see, I got that one. This one, last one I have for the moment, is from Roy, pertaining to saved searches. does the NACL file contain things like the audience, the highlighting conditions, the email actions? So these are lots of the sub tabs on a
Hmm.
saved search. Or is it more the just the criteria and the columns?
Yeah, so basically the rule of thumb is everything you have in the XML is what you have in the NACL, right? Because basically we take the XML file and we convert it into NACL. So Eric, I'm going to use your expertise here. I don't know exactly the answer. Like, do we have this information in the XML?
Yeah, you basically all of the things that you would need to deploy that saved search with SDF, NetSuite's native deployment
Hmm.
solution. All of the things that are in there, which would include highlighting, email actions, the scheduling, all of that stuff, all of those properties are included in the XML. And so I believe that they're all in the NACL as well. I can't say off the top of my head if it's 100% of the fields. That's not always the case, but
We can take a look on like right
yeah,
now.
we can just pull. I just pull up the NACL of any saved search, and I can tell you if what Roy's asking for is in there.
Let's go for it. And then maybe we can even hit explain and see how we do there.
And if you aren't familiar with what we're talking about when we say in the XML, so NetSuite has its own deployment tool that represents all the objects as XML files. And if you go to a custom field or a custom script record
Yeah, there's
or
the
anything like
audience.
that, yeah. So we're looking for like highlighting, email action, schedule, things like that. I can't to full screen this and move it over.
I found the detail fields, the return fields, the search filter, sort columns. Let's take this one maybe.
And what I don't know is, probably most saved searches don't have highlighting, don't have email actions set on them. And so
Yeah.
if they're not set, I don't know if they'll show up.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
I'm just trying here kind of randomly to see if we have one. Uh, Take into account that this is kind of my NetSuite account or our NetSuite account, which is not really being used in a real organization for, financial purposes, so it might be lacking. Um, but uh,
yeah,
but yeah, but the long story short, the answer is yes. Like if it's in the XML, which Eric can confirm, that you can safely assume that you can find it in Salto.
yeah. But just to finish what I was saying, NetSuite represents all of its objects as XML, and if you go to any custom object, you can download that XML file and see how NetSuite represents it. And Salto will have a similar representation. Um, the problem with saved searches is that XML, what they do with saved searches is hash them. They take all the content and just put it into one hash, and so that's all you see in the XML. So it's hard to know what NetSuite is encapsulating in that hash. Um, that's with saved searches specifically. They don't do that with anything else, as far as I know. So they're a little bit tougher. So I guess Roy, we don't have a definitive answer for you, but the short answer is if it's in SDF's XML, then it's probably in the NACL file too.
Yeah, yeah, completely.
Uh, all right, that is all the questions I have for the moment. We will be having a poll at the end of the webinar uh, just to get some feedback. So stay tuned, watch for that in the Zoom chat here. Anything else? Any other takeaways? Any other interesting conversations or questions you had at the conference that you want to wrap up with?
I just want to say, I mean, thank you to the awesome community in NetSuite. Like great people, great vibes, always, respectful and nice, even though I'm not, the NetSuite professional and I don't know everything about NetSuite. I am just, uh, trying my best. So it's always nice to have really good conversations with people and kind of learn from their experience, hear about new use cases, and kind of share a little bit of what we know and what we do. So it was really nice to interact. And also, a huge shout out to our existing customers, which were there. It was great to meet them in person, talk about, how things are going, maybe show them a little bit of the new things that we've added. Yeah, honestly, I'm looking forward to next year. Hopefully I'll be there again, and maybe I'll do another session. I don't know. Only time will tell. So yeah, for me it was an amazing experience, and it was great. And yeah, thank you to everyone that attended, I'd say.
Yes, definitely. Thank you all. Take a look for that poll, and do remember, if you want to, anything you saw today was interesting, the poll is up now. I see it. Uh, you can check out Salto for yourself. Explore. You can head over to salto.io, sign up for a free 30-day trial, and get your own free personalized demo, maybe with Dan. I'm not sure.
Yeah, there is a good chance. Um, but Roy, back to you. I don't know if you're still around. You can just go ahead and try that thing with the safe search. I'd say maybe that's something you can sign up for a trial and just give it a go. And I'm pretty sure you'll find the answer.
All right. Well, thank you to everyone who attended. Make sure you fill out the poll. And once again, check out salto.io. Thanks, Dan. Appreciate your time.
Thank you, Eric. It was a pleasure conversing as always, and have a good one.
All right. You too. Thank you all.
Bye bye.